Awesome. So welcome to session two of day one here at Localized, the Cybersecurity Summit in collaboration with Trend Micro Initiative for Education. It's getting off to a very good start. A lot is happening. A lot of topics are being discussed. A lot of experts from different backgrounds and just so much knowledge to share and networking. And here at session number two, today we have a VIP panel, and we'll be discussing cybersecurity threats and career opportunities. Now, I would like to welcome each and every one of these panelists and thank them for dedicating their time to come join us today to share their insights to help inspire and guide our community. And so thank you so much for joining us today on behalf of all of us at Localized and everyone who joined us today. Just a quick reminder that this session is engaging, so feel free to post your questions in the Q&A at any time. If your name is anonymous, attendee, change it to your actual name so that we can address you at a more personal level. And let us know where you're connecting from, what your thoughts are, what are some of the key outcomes they want to get out of today's sessions. Now, before I introduce our amazing panelists today, I want to welcome Mitchel Chang, who's heading the CSR and education initiatives at Trend Micro, and who's been really getting all these people together, all these great minds together here today. Mitchel, if you can tell us a little bit about the purpose of this event and what are your objectives at Trend Micro Initiative for Education, and what attendees should look forward to in this session.
Yeah, sure. First, I'd like to thank Localized and also all the panelists. They're all very busy people. They're the leaders and subject matter experts in the cybersecurity field and also education field. And the whole purpose of Trend Micro Education Initiative Outreach is to try to provide our community just awareness and education, and also help our community build up a strong cybersecurity workforce. There's something we purely, by using volunteer resources, and something we're as a company, we try to give back to the community. Because if you follow Trend Micro, our history, we actually have our founder speak tomorrow to the audience, and we've been in business for 34 years. I think the company has been profitable since the first year, starting the company ever since. And if you guys read a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, you will find there's not many technology software company been this successful. So on the company operations side, we've been very successful, but our founders and our executive really believe that we have to give back to community, help with education. You could have most sophisticated security software today and tools, but all it takes just one employee in the company click on the wrong email, that could cost the whole ransomware attack for something big as the infrastructure of the United States these days. So that's something that's critical. And also we start early. We have a program on for K-12, internet safety for kids and family. So we try to reach out to the community and by our volunteers and work with nonprofit organizations to achieve that.
Thank you so much, Mitchel. Thank you to all our panelists for joining us today. Now, over the next 15 minutes or so, we'll be talking about a brief walkthrough of cybersecurity. How did it start? What are the trends? And what are some of the changes that we've witnessed in the past couple of years? And as well as discuss the career opportunities. Is it really only for technical people? How can you get into this field? And what are some of the essential skills that you need to tap into this field? And we'll also touch very briefly upon diversity, equity, inclusion. And we will carry that conversation onto the next session as well. Now, to just a brief introduction about our panelists, I would like to welcome William Malik, who's the VP of Enterprise and Infrastructure at Trend Micro. William, can you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you end up where you are today? And most importantly, what interested you in cybersecurity, and why did you choose to pursue a career in cybersecurity?
Sure. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I began my IT career shortly after college. I was always interested in solving puzzles. And as I grew up, I realized that one of the ways to use that curiosity is to get in a job where you address and solve hard problems that appear sometimes as puzzles. I started as a programmer at an insurance company, was there for a number of years. Then I went to IBM. I worked in software development there for about a dozen years. A friend of mine went to the Gartner group, industry analysts, and told me about what was going on. And it seemed like a good time to make a move. So I was there for a while. I led the information security strategies service. I took that job in the early 90s. When I was in college, I had no idea I would end up doing anything like that. But it was great. I had a couple of things I specialized in. I had a team of 4 people, grew to 6, that took on various areas within information security. And then after 9/11, I did a deep rethink about my career, changed employers, started my own business. And back in 2017, I came to work for Trend. Now, I can't describe any particular moment when I decided that cybersecurity would be my career, but it was always, how do we solve the hardest problems? Technology problems can be intricate, but ultimately for software, it comes down somewhere there's a 0 that should be a 1 or a 1 that should be a 0. But solving problems like how do you design systems so people don't make mistakes? How do you design environments so that businesses can do, good and the right things and protect the privacy and integrity of the underlying social structure? Those are hard problems. Those are interesting puzzles. And I tell you, I learn a new thing every week.
Definitely, and that's one of the most exciting things about this field, Bill. Not only do you learn new things every week, you have to stay ahead of the bad guys, right? So it's a very interesting field to tap into. Thank you so much, Bill, for joining us today. Next, I want to welcome Lisa, who's the Executive Director at the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Now, Lisa believes very heavily in the importance of cybersecurity education and awareness. Lisa, can you tell us some of the challenges that you're facing when you're raising awareness, and why is it so important to raise awareness not only for cybersecurity professionals but for everyone in general?
Well, like Mitchel mentioned, it just takes one click on the wrong email for a catastrophic series of events to unfold, right? So, so everyday people and our interactions with technology can have a devastating effect if we don't know how to use the technology securely. And I think the information age for me, as a woman in her 50s looking back, it's still in its infancy. The internet was never designed to be secure. It was designed for the open and free flow of information. And unfortunately, there's people in the world who would use it to do harm at this point. And it's kind of wide open to be able to be used in that way. So the organization that I lead, the National Cybersecurity Alliance, we're really there to advocate for the safe and secure use of all technology. And I think because the information age is still a little bit immature, we find as security professionals that we're often running around trying to play catch up. And it's gonna take partnership between, what I hate the term end user, but between end users, everyday humans, and technologists to get us to the point where, security is kind of built in by default. And we're seeing that happen more and more, but we're not quite there yet. I think it's going to be a little bit longer before we are there. So in the meantime, your average human, people like my kids and my mom, need to know how to recognize a phishing email, need to know how to tell if a link looks a little suspicious, and they just need to have their spidey senses on when they use technology, and not ignore things like software updates and things like that. So I wish the internet came with a little user's manual. It does not. But on staysafeonline.org, we have a whole bunch of tips for people from every walk of life. And we also have a lot of materials. We have a new education and resource page for people looking for careers in cybersecurity, for students, for K through 12 students, for teachers, for people that want to make a career shift. We've amassed, there's a ton of resources, but they're scattered all over the internet. And not all of the folks that offer those resources as free education materials have the ability to put a lot of marketing juice behind them to make sure that they're easy to find. So what we've created is a directory of all the great free stuff that's out there, all the education resources, whether you're a student just thinking about a career in cybersecurity, or you're a professional thinking about making a change, or you're a kid in middle school or high school thinking this might be interesting to you. There's a ton of resources out there, and that's on staysafeonline.org.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for joining us today. And that's sort of a trend that I'm seeing today from today's session, that those bad guys, as we were saying in the past couple of sessions, they don't only rely on technical vulnerabilities or they look for like loopholes to penetrate, but they also try to use some psychological like tricks or aspects. And a lot of experts call them romance hacks, right? And that definitely depends on psychology and a lot of social engineering. And with that in mind, I would like to welcome Dr. Anthony Chow. Now, Dr. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Anthony is a professor at San Jose State University, and you're specializing in sort of psychology with a focus in human cognition, right? Can you tell us about your background and how does that relate to cybersecurity today?
Sure. I think it really builds on what Bill and Lisa just said. So my interest is really on connecting people with information using technology. And so I think, as Bill said, it creates these unique puzzles in terms of how do you connect folks like my parents at 82 to the internet and technology with, while at the same time recognizing that we've just opened them up to a lot of potential exploitation, right? So my area as a professional educator really is to look at the competencies needed to protect individuals like that. So one of my primary areas is library and information science. And so we, at the individual level, are continuing to open the internet and technology to many people that can't afford it. And the problem is that we also must be able to provide the ability for them to support themselves, to protect themselves as well. And then the other part in terms of making sure that that continues is at the iSchool at San Jose State is to ensure that we have a pipeline of both undergraduates and graduates that can continue to protect individuals like that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anthony, for joining us today. Now I would like to welcome our next panelist, Kaju Naguchi. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, who's a senior researcher at the Chow University and executive director at the INC SCOE. And he really brings over 30 years of experience in this industry in the US, Canada, and Japan, working with exponential technologies, whether it's 5G or IT or how that relates to even global supply chain. So you bring immense experience to the panel today. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience around cybersecurity and why are you interested in this field today? And what do you think that everyone should look out for, whether you're a student or you're a professional?
Yeah, thank you very much this opportunity and honor to be here. My name is Kazuo Noguchi, senior researcher and executive director of the INCS COE. That's the International Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. It's a consortium. It's a soft form 2016. I started my career as a consultant in the particularly KPMG and working for Hitachi. And still, I have several hats of those. And why cybersecurity? As Mitchel beautifully mentioned, that it's getting back to the society for safe and secure for daily life. The scenes changed quite a bit. The INC COE perspective, so it was created by number of universities, 20 plus, loosely coupled 35 and so on in the world, formed the board 2 years ago. US, UK, Japan's universities, 6 universities, president level signed. So AIM is the international perspective as well as the government, industry, academia. Sometimes it's very surprising that there's no coordination of international perspective as well as those government, industry, academia. So that's one of the reasons to create this Inc. COE to communicate. And one of the pillars of Inc. COE is the training and education. In particular, international C2C CTF we created, country to country capture the flag, which is a 5-year plan. And we just finished the 2nd year. By the way, KO will host the 2023, hopefully in-person competition. Last one, there are 155 students at final, 31. The teams competed each other, and we had the 1st, 2nd, 3rd. And winning teams recognized and give the awards. And the first year, the UK's National Cybersecurity Center was really engaging. This time, August, we had from Israel, and as a sponsor include IBM, Intel, and a number of the sponsors. That was a great one. And really, the aiming for this consortium is that one company or one university or one country even cannot solve this cybersecurity issues. So I was involved for the UN activities as well as some multilateral activities, but the more and more recognized, and the threat are in the meantime coming. So certainly participating this the consortium or encouraging students to come out of the box to prepare is really they're needed. There are a lot of gaps, supply and demand. If there is some questions later, certainly we'd like to talk about it. Thanks again.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more, Kachua. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bill, I want to get back to you on this note. When we're talking about cybersecurity and its definition today, everyone might have a different definition or a different understanding of what cybersecurity is today. Now, from your experience of being in the industry for quite a while, what is your definition of cybersecurity, and who's at risk, and what are some of the threats that you are seeing more prominent today than were a couple of years ago?
Well, thank you for that question. First, the original definition of information security goes way back. Data shall not be lost or altered or inadvertently disclosed. That's really what cybersecurity comes down to. And if you expand on those things, there's an acronym that we use. It's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And those are just, big words for saying those simple things. Data shouldn't be lost. It should be available. It shouldn't be altered. It should have integrity. And it shouldn't be inadvertently disclosed. That means it's going to be kept confidential. Now, since that came to be, we've kind of had to broaden our thinking a bit. The notion of data now includes processes and software, if you will, devices. So when you look at, say, Internet of Things, when you look at, the smart thermostat, well, what kind of data has it got? Not only about what it's meant to do to keep your home at a good temperature, but also what kind of information does it have access to? With the pandemic, a lot of people no longer work in traditional offices, which means that the home office, which is where I am, it's Tapestry I got many years ago on a trip, you now bring all of the vulnerabilities and quirks of the home office. My home office is now part of Trend Micro's infrastructure. So from a security professional's point of view, you have a couple of challenges. The first is, where is all the data? Who's responsible for it? And that means not only who creates it, but also who's got a custodial responsibility. The data center itself, the people who own whatever cloud resources your business is using, they aren't actually the creators of the data, they're the custodians of it. But they have to know some characteristics in order to how to protect it, how to raise an alarm if it's changed, or if it's been altered, or if it's been copied, or worse yet, if it's been erased or encrypted and you're now subject to ransomware. So there are a lot of different ways that cybersecurity in that broad sense gets introduced into the wider conversation. Privacy is included in that. Patented information like the formula for Coca-Cola would be something to keep secret. My health data would be a protected category, financial data for my firm, and so on. But the idea is there's some stuff that I don't want shared. There's some stuff that I've got to rely on to be true. And there's some stuff that just has to be there when I need it. And making sure that happens is a broad definition of what cybersecurity is about.
Thank you so much, Bill, for sharing your insights, and thank you for joining us today. And I couldn't agree more. And my next question is to Chow, who's been in the field of research with COE, sorry. With all this, let's say, automation or like evolution of smart homes, data is being shared more than ever, right? Nowadays, even your fridge could be connected to the internet. Now, when it comes to that data being available to outsiders or like creating threats, are cyber professionals winning this battle, or are criminals ahead? Got you.
Sorry, my internet was not that stable.
I can repeat
yeah.
my question. Bill was mentioning, he was talking about the trends of cybersecurity, and he mentioned how your thermostat is connected to the internet right now, and all the smart home and automation and industry 3.0 and all the evolution that's happening right now. So who's ahead now? Are vendors aware of the threats when they create these products or these technologies, or are the criminals always a step ahead, able to predict the vulnerabilities?
Yeah, thank you for that. Really, the bottom of the question. So from my perspective, the criminals, attackers have more advantage than the industry. It's an asymmetric kind of advantage because of the fact that criminals are well-funded, organized very well. On the other hand, the companies hesitate to share, particularly some Japanese companies, to share the information itself is kind of a shame, including the media and so on. How to share and trust your partners and the government, that's really the big challenge. And that's one thing. But in the meantime, there are no standard in terms of automation. I was involved part of the Oasis, the Styx taxi. That's one adopted by DHS, the automated indicator sharing and so on. But it's not enough. And how you can prevent, that is the AI's perspective, how to make that the automation from 18 months to discover to milliseconds, nanoseconds, how you can make that technology available. So that's a very big challenge. So but still to detect or prevent is really the big challenge. In the meantime, digital trust. So how you can make the trust, partners trust all the infrastructure, and to make that from hardware, software, firmware, and people in the loop. Those are all related to the supply chain, global supply chain, to make sure that every piece should be trusted. Otherwise, any kind of small area, if you have vulnerability, easy to get cracked and criminalized. People can come into to do something like solar winds happening, and exchange was also hacked, and more and more criminals are coming. In the meantime, there is no law, international laws. So those are also the big issue to coordinate country to country or internationally, like-minded countries to, if you will. So those are the challenges. So Inc. COE has constantly looking for the good solutions or good research. Now we are talking about the digital trust, flip side of cybersecurity, how to make the trust relationship coming on the all layers. Let me stop here.
I couldn't agree more, Chow. It definitely takes a lot of collaboration, let alone cybersecurity. Even whenever you're facing any challenges, you sort of need the community coming together, sort of like we're all here at Localized to exchange resources, to exchange knowledge, to exchange ideas. That is not different than a very big industry like cybersecurity. And Lisa, if you could support me here, what role are educational institutes or like governments or communities in general playing in this battle against cyber threats and cyber criminals?
Yeah, I think as was just stated, it is a partnership, right? It's government, it's private industry, it's educational institutions, nonprofits like us. The more smart minds we have on the problem, the better. And I would say it's also a team sport within your own organization. Some of the security teams or folks that I talk to who can get burnt out or get frustrated in the field are frequently not as integrated with their business as they could be. And if I had to give some advice to maybe some of the students that have tuned in today, it's to get to know your business, to get to know the organization that you're working for. What is their product? What is their service? I've seen security teams that are even physically separated from the other departments in the company, or maybe there's an extra special badge you need to get into their space. Some of the most successful security teams are ones that are really integrated with the rest of the business, that understand the product or service that they're selling, and then understand how to have appropriate security for that business. Not every business needs what I'll call financial services style security program. So in order not to drive yourself crazy in this profession, you've got to take a risk-based approach because there's never enough, right? There's always more you can do, and it's very easy to get a little burnout in this field. So if you partner with the business, if it's a team sport in your organization, if you don't take too extreme a perspective on what the best thing is for your business, understand the risks, understand the risk tolerance of the leadership, and then take a risk-based approach. And that means handling the big rocks first and not worrying about all the grains of sand, because there will always be something to worry about in this field. And you will lie awake at night with worry. So I think if you're a good partner to your business and you're able to sometimes be flexible to get things done, in other words, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. It's better to do something than to not do anything at all. And if you can work with your organization and with your business, they're more likely to include you upstream in projects. And that's really important, like getting security designed in from the start, whether it's a process or a product or an application, whatever it is. We all know that designing for security is more efficient and more effective than when the business comes to you at the last minute and says, hey, would you review this widget that we have, or would you review this contract or this vendor relationship or whatever it is. When you're included at the last minute, you will always be playing catch up, and you'll never be as effective as you could be if you were invited to the table upstream. So my advice to people that are looking for a career in security is to really understand the business that you work with, or the organization that you're working with. Really understand what it is that drives revenue, understand what their goals are, and you've got to align the security program to those goals and take a risk-based approach.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for the wonderful advice and insight. And thank you so much, Chow. Mitchel, I know you're on the front of cybersecurity education and collaboration, and I know you would provide us with some wonderful insights. So can you expand a little bit more on this topic?
Yeah, well, I actually, what Noguchi-san just say, and also Lisa said, kind of inspired me to kind of jump in here because I can't hold myself back anymore. I have a question. This wasn't a planned question for Lisa and Noguchi-san, because I'm engineer by training, right? So I look at things in two dimensions. One dimension, when you talk about collaboration, you have different sectors. You have nonprofit, you have education, and you have industry, you have a government, right? And so it's across the sector. But each sector, they have its own challenges, like law enforcement, right? In the United States, the federal, you have the FBI's and DHS and these departments. And when you get down to the community level, like the local sheriff office, and so to get them to collaborate, that's a challenge by itself. And let's say among vendors, can Trend Micro collaborate with Palo Alto Network or other players? So I'm just curious from their perspective. Is there any particular sector that's more challenging than others, or it really stands out? Because all this is good for students, because when you got so much needs and there's so much work can be done, there's opportunity for you to enter in. And that's why you're here from CyberSeeks tomorrow. There's, I think Kevin mentioned, there's about 500,000 jobs available today, right? That's unfilled right now. So I wonder from Lisa's and Noguchi-san's perspective, is there any segment more challenging than others? Are they all equally challenged as far as collaborating? Because we're not just talking about the sector get together, but within that vertical, they have different level.
Yeah, I can jump in on that first, if you don't mind. Yeah, I mean, I know a person who runs one of the ISACs, and it's a relatively new ISAC, and they will tell you that just getting all the lawyers from all the companies to collaborate everybody wants to consume information, but it's harder to get folks to share. So even within an industry vertical like that, and even something that's as shrouded in all sorts of non-disclosures and legal protections as an ISAC, there's still difficulty in getting everybody to participate equally and for the good of that entire industry. So I'll blame the lawyers on that one, but I'm going to give you the glass half full version, Mitchell. Instead of what's more challenging, I'm going to talk about a bright spot in the world, and that's our space, being a nonprofit. As you know, we have many competitors on our board, and everybody kind of checks their stripes at the door. And we're really about the mission. We're about the mission of ruining cyber criminals' day so that they are less successful, and educating not just the general public around the world with things like Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is happening right now, but attracting more people to the field and attracting new talent across the board, whether it's people changing their careers or choosing to study cybersecurity. So we actually see some really good partnerships amongst competitors, because they've aligned around our mission. They've aligned around the mission of a nonprofit, and we don't play favorites. We don't endorse particular tools or solutions. And so it's a really good way, in this nonprofit space, to be a part of the solution and to work for the greater good, right? We're all here for a purpose that's higher than ourselves, that's higher than our individual organizations. And so for us, it's a bright spot in the environment that you've described, where there's challenges and people cooperating. But I'll let Noguchi-san give his perspective.
Yes, yeah, thank you for the very important question, Mitchell. from horizontal perspective, something like IoT, robotics, AI, those are really critical one to get the to assure it should work very well because of the fact that those are built onto the traditional manufacturing, something like automotive or train, everyday's use, as well as energy and so on. And from a vertical perspective, energy, for instance, aligned with weather change and attacking by some criminals, like pipelines case. The energy is very critical for daily life for everybody. And if somebody is attacking intentionally, it's very difficult for everybody. And 5G, 6Gs are coming up, certainly for communication perspective, millisecond, nanosecond, and going forward, and how to make the things are really secured for every aspect of life. And the satellite, for instance, is coming up. But those are the kind of vertical perspectives. But all in all, still the coordination needs to be done well enough. But UN, for instance, they started, but international perspective, it's very hard. It's great that the industry started, such as Cyber Peace Institute or Tech Accord by Microsoft. Those are industry alliance. So to make sure that all the industry groups are protected well. So that is a challenge for horizontal as well as vertical as well. So those need to be coordinated well, but so we need new and fresh the thoughts, and in addition to those traditional one, new technologies are coming up. So those are really the good challenge, and also innovative thinkers like the students attending today to come up with a good innovation. So that's my challenge to the students.
Yeah, I think we're setting up a question for Anthony coming up here. We put out a problem on the table. We're looking at educator how to solve this. I do agree. I think the bad guys actually is well-funded, well-organized. What I hear, I read on a story of ransomware, for example, Colonial Pipeline, which disrupted the United States energy gasoline pump for a little while because the ransom, the organized crime has started, and they will go as far as reconnaissance to check. They understand how operation company works, right? So they will check the signature authority of the CFO or CEO. Like when they ask for ransom, they don't just ask for any ridiculous amount because they want to quickly get their money. So potentially, organization like a crime organization would check, see where the signature authority, so they don't have to go to the board director for approval. So the C-level people can approve the ransom and pay it, and that's how sophisticated they're getting with their organized fashion. So there's opportunity for not just technical major, but also we also mentioned lawyer, right? The legal, there need to be laws because usually the laws and legislation come sort of behind the technology, because you need a lawyer and to write a new law, help with new laws, and also of course there are going to be lawsuits when people lose money or data. They're seeking protection, and so with all this, technology are advancing, but everything else supporting technology, including the human side, social engineering, that's on the play. So Anthony, I think we did it well to identify the issue, but how are you going to solve it? Were you going to be able to produce more? Because in a few years, we're going to be retiring, and is our next generation going to be able to keep the world peace here?
Thanks, Mitchell. And I just wanted to jump in and say to all of you students out there that I think the drawing it up as good guys versus bad guys is the exact right way to do it. Again, I think that when we look at Mitchell, going back to your original, your previous question, I think as I and others are focused on providing technology to people so that they can improve the quality of their life, I expect the cybersecurity folks to make sure that as a former IT director, we would say the best IT is the invisible IT, right? So again, not to pick on my parents, but as my parents are 82, they've lived a good life. Cognitively, they're slowing down. If we expect them to take ownership over their defense, then I think it's a losing cause. So I just wanted to start there and say that I believe it's got to be baked into the technology as seamlessly as possible. Because if you're asking the users at the desktop to do it, especially Mitchell, as you said, retiring, we want that to be a graceful, nice retirement. And then Mitchell, you also said about the human side. Again, speaking to the students, it's not just a technology solution. You're protecting the quality of people's lives, right? And that I think is the most honorable thing what we can do. Now, going back to your question, the answer is no and yes. Right now, it always amazes me that we can have gaps in labor when the U.S. labor statistics says that the field will grow by 33% in the next 10 years. And there are also currently quite a few open positions. So for me, as an educator, that says this is a very viable career. Well-paying, lots of opportunities, and continuing to grow. Now, the bad news is that in the U.S., the average undergraduate college degree age student is dropping, right? So in other words, we're having less students on our campuses. But I'm also, as Lisa said, I'm a cup half full kind of person. I see opportunity, I see well-paying jobs, but more importantly, I see that as we have to collaborate together. So I think, Lisa, I'll go with your team analogy. You remember in the 1980s, the U.S. women's soccer team was not able to compete at an international level, right? Now look at us. And how did they do that? How are we now perennially world champions? The answer is that we built a pipeline that started all the way down to youth soccer, right? We created the youth soccer programs. We advertised youth soccer programs. The best athletes were playing it in middle school and high school, and we created that pipeline. And then what did we do? We then had Title IX, where we addressed the equality of scholarships for women, right? So the college scholarship game was now much more robust. And now look at us. We are world champions perennially, right? So I think at the end, Mitchell, going to your question, it is truly, as you've heard over and over again, a holistic approach here. We have to work together in education and competency. That means it has to start in the K through 12. It has that competency, those competencies have to be truly honored alongside the traditional math, science, and social studies and English. Technology competency truly is one of the most important things that we should focus on. So yes, I think we can do it. I think it's an easy sell, but I think a lot of people are intimidated by technology careers, and that has to start at the K through 12 level.
Okay. So Anthony, I want to challenge you on an additional question to this question here. Anyone else can chime in that how about international level? If you're looking for a US level, yeah, because I use Olympics as an example, right? Usually the rich countries have a bigger advantage, right? You can train athletes, you identify talent and start training them. and countries. We have a lot of folks from Philippines online here today, and poor country, especially the people living like in province in the Philippines, they may not have equal opportunity, right? Like, I think Philippines won the first gold medal this past Olympic, and usually, even though you're a good athlete, you have to kind of survive to work, right? Where the richer countries, your kids, you can start grooming them to be a successful, whether cybersecurity professional from very young age. And how do you see that? Because I see potentially with cybersecurity, with this industry 4.0, the node we're going into, there's more equal opportunity around the world potentially, because you don't have, it's not a manufacturing base now, it's intelligent, more intellectual base. And any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that the emergence of e-learning and virtual reality in particular just continuously expand our ability to reach students in the Philippines or anywhere else, right? So most of us professional educators are dedicated to the benefit of other people, right? And so as we develop these courses, those courses certainly can be made available to other countries and other students. But I think, Mitchel, again, it comes to, and as Lisa mentioned, and Kazuo mentioned as well, we have to work together. So we have people that have developed the courses, we have curriculum, we have structures in which to access that curriculum, but we need help in connecting people. So Mitchel, we need help in connecting with students in the Philippines. And we are talking about donating our services, right? And providing that access because it's already there, right? And so, for example, libraries. So we're talking about with a nonprofit organization that will allow us, faculty and students, to go worldwide to build libraries in other communities. So I think that, yes, Mitchel, good question. As a wealthier nation, we are obliged to utilize what we've learned for the benefit of others.
If I can chime in for that,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, the international perspective, the silver lining situation of the Cobit is that we are all international online, and we did 2 times of competition, global competition, and 20 plus countries origin participated, 300 some students participated globally, and then there are some webinars for training perspective. And certainly those are the opportunities that we can create internationally. And as Lisa also mentioned that, this one is a team sports. International students from globally 24 hours to compete, and from different country, different continent, and different universities to mix the team to compete each other. And the baseline is the white hackers, or to participate. Ethics is very important one for the education as well as the consent. So those are the one. We do not want to educate and flip the side. That we don't want to, but to trust and constantly educate or remind ourselves for the good purpose to return to this community of the newer communities are evolving. So that's a very important perspective, so that we'll continuously contribute from that aspect internationally.
I'm just curious, when you have a competition like that, different countries are represented, right? So it's almost like there's sense of pride among competition. Also, from our experience at Trend, we used to do the programming contest. Last time we ran one that's like inter-Asia. So there's Taiwan, Japan, Philippines, and different countries involved. And I thought that was a very interesting outcome because then you will see, because even in Asia, you have a richer and a poorer country, Japan being probably one of the richer countries, and then you have more sort of less fortunate country. But one thing we find, there's smart people everywhere in the world, and sometimes we're surprised. And also organizations like Trend Micro, because we're a global company, we're very geographic diverse, and again, I use the Philippine example. We have a lot of people work in the Trend Micro office in Philippines, and they get assigned to different organizations around the world, are promoted to different, and so when they join, let's say the Trend Micro US group, and they're able to rise up as like a supervisor at their senior director level positions, and which is when we collaborate together, I think the talent is coming from everywhere. And that kind of leads the question to Lisa. I will just be curious, being female in cybersecurity, do you see there's equal opportunity? This is a huge amount of race on the technology with the bad guys, and also collaborating around the world. Do you see, is there a disadvantage of being a female person, as you now are head of a National Cybersecurity Alliance, as you progress in your career? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think there's so many so many vacant positions in security right now, that if anybody is not recruiting people from all walks of life, they're missing massive opportunities. So I think there's great opportunity there for people from all walks of life, just because there's so much demand in general. And I would say to those women that are, I often hear the phrase, I'm afraid to walk in, quotes, walk into that room because there's nobody in there that looks like me. You hear that from minorities, from females, from people from all walks of life. And honestly, if you can't be the first one, then I think you need to do a little self-evaluation and some self-searching. If somebody doesn't start, if you're not the first one in the room that looks like you do, or comes from the background you do, then you're not paving the way for anybody else to come behind you. And I started my career in automotive. I was in the automotive industry for a really long time. I interned in factories as a college student, and worked in the automotive industry, from the factory floor to working with car dealerships and car distributorships all around the world. And that was in the late 80s and the 90s. And I was frequently one of the only females in the room. And if I would have let that stop me, that would have been a shame. That would have been a shame for my employer. That would have been a shame for me personally in my career. That would have been a shame for all the women that followed after me. So my first piece of advice is, don't be afraid to be the first one in the room. Somebody's got to be the first one in the room. Mm-hmm. My other piece of advice would be, don't just look to people from your same gender or race or background to be your mentors. My best mentors that I've had in my career have all been men. They're men that understood that women think a little bit differently. They understood the sort of Venus-Mars dynamic. They understood that women tend to be more risk averse. So if you put an opportunity in front of a man and say, hey, I want you to take this next job, this next step up. If a man feels, 70 or 80% ready, then they're going to say, yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to go for it. If you put that same opportunity in front of a female, she's going to more often than not be more risk averse and say, no, I'm not ready. And it often takes men in leadership to kind of give you that nudge. To put yourself out there and to take that little bit of risk, even though you might not feel 100% confident. So it's been the male leaders that I've worked for in my career that understood that dynamic and were able to, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And so that was really, really helpful. And I've talked to plenty of other women who've had similar stories. So don't think that because somebody doesn't look like you or come from the same background, that they can't also be a positive influence on your career and be a mentor to you. But I think there's, there's fantastic opportunity in this space overall, career-wise, and well, all ships rise with the tide, right? So there's opportunity for everybody in the security space right now.
Do you feel for female students today come through going through study, is the life easier nowadays than, I really admire, like, some of the female, like individual like yourself, because another way to look at it, so happens you're leading NCSA, and then I believe, well, Trend Micro, our CEO is female. Localized, the platform company, is also female, and San Jose State University, I believe your president is so we are. I really
Women
admire,
tend to
because
make
you guys
empathetic leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a daughter who's studying in the STEM field right now. She's an engineering student at university, and I watched her go through a STEM program at our local high school. And I never once heard any trepidation or she never had any issues being a girl studying STEM. It was as natural for her as anything else. And there were no stereotypes or anything that held her back. So I think maybe that has changed in the 35 years since I was her age. And it's changed for the better. And that's not the case all around the world. I lived in a country for some time where it was not, I was having a performance review with my supervisor, and it was not illegal for him to ask me if I plan to have kids, if I plan to take time off. It was not illegal for him to ask me what my husband's career plans were, even though my husband didn't work for that same company, which I reminded him of that conversation. Now, this was about 25 years ago, but still, we like to pride ourselves on having fairly egalitarian societies in the West, in westernized countries, and more advanced economies in advanced countries, but that's not the same all around the world. So I hope that the digitization of a lot of education also means that opens up opportunities globally for females and minorities and people from all backgrounds. I hope that changes in the places where there hasn't been as many advancements in that realm. I mean, not that the United States doesn't still have its challenges, we certainly do, but I will say, as somebody who lived abroad for 13 years, that there are places in the world where it's a much bigger challenge than in North America, for example, or Western Europe.
Thank you. Yeah. So my younger daughter is graduated from UCLA. Follow her dad's footstep. She will be getting an electrical engineering degree. She already got a job offer. The same employer I worked for almost 30 plus years ago. Texas Instruments is her first job out of college. So I think hopefully things, there will be more opportunity. And also, I just share with the audience, we have a session where one of our Trend Micro Global Human Resource Director will host. She will do a panel with 3 probably leaders within Trend Micro in different parts of the world. They're all female senior leaders within Trend Micro tomorrow. So if you guys are interested in the topic, and they will share with their personal story of how they come up the rank in a large organization, and I think both Localized and Trend Micro, that we have very focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think because we believe we have to all work together, and doesn't matter of your ethnicity or race or gender, that we need to work together to make the world a better place. Okay.
Thank you, Mitchel. Thank you, Noguchi-san. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Dr. Anthony. And thank you, Bill, for a very informative session. Thank you so much for dedicating your time to come inspire and guide our community. We hope to see you again at Localized. Until then, keep inspiring, keep motivating. And for everyone else, we'll see you in the next session happening in 5 minutes. I've sent the link in the chat section. And yeah, see you there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.